Hey everybody, Chef Gary here. Today I'm not in my own workshop, I'm in my dad's workshop. He and my mom are on a cruise across Europe, so I thought I'd take the time and use his workshop. Today I'm going to put together the Bush Master 65-inch from OMP Models. We got the red and yellow one. I'm going to go ahead and put that together, follow along. First thing we're going to do is open up this big box. I'll take some snapshots like I always do so you can see all the different pieces. We'll talk about them as we put them together. Okay everybody, so I just got the box undone. As with any other OMP, it's packed in this hard cardboard. Again, had to use a screwdriver to pry it open a little bit. It again had this little tube in there, goes straight through the fuselage, straight into a piece of wood on the other side, holds that airplane in place during shipment back and forth. Initial inspection, everything looks good. Cowling's tight in place, everything's in place. I'm going to go ahead and cut it all out and start the assembly. Alright, so we're back here, unboxed all of the Turbo Bushmaster. Everything looks fantastic. We'll go through all the pieces. Rudder does have pull set up inside. Cowling has an air scoop inside to get some additional airflow over your speed control. Each wing half looks beautiful. It's got a little bit of wrinkle in the bottom of this wing, not too bad though. Stabilizer. These are your wing struts. Wing tube, right wing. Don't find any wrinkles in the right wing. Maybe a couple out here on the wing tip. Nothing that a heat gun couldn't take out. Spinner. All of your parts to hold the spinner together are inside of the spinner. A Sunny Sky motor. It is a Sunny Sky 3520-7 560 kV. Says it can run either 6S or 4S. We're going to start off with 4S on this airplane. Parts bag, hardware for the 65-inch Bushmaster fuselage, prop nut, some extra extensions, some Velcro, and of course now we have our fuselage. Fuselage already has the tail wheel mounted on the back, servos are in the back. Everything kind of like what they normally do with everything Buddy RC and Ohio Model Products do. Sunny Sky 80 amp speed control already set up. Again, color coordinated to match the motor. Firewall's ready to go. Has a couple of different mounting plates in here so that you can choose different motors if you prefer. We're going to go with the Sunny Sky motor that came with it. And now, time to clear the bench off and start the build. Okay, so we've got the airplane up on the stand. We're going to go ahead and start taking pieces off. And let's inspect the inside. Probably flip it over and do the landing gear first. Everything looks pretty good. It already has on the inside a Velcro strap for your battery. Has the XT40 battery connector inside. The XT40 battery connector is the yellow battery connector. It's the smaller of the two, so you can plug your EC3s right into it. So in this case, when we go to plug in our 4S battery, we're going to be able to plug it straight into it. Again, a Velcro strap up here on the front so that we can hide our wires. Pull is already set up. Has the extension already here. The extension for the elevator is unfortunately fallen to the back, but that's not a very hard thing to do because I've got pretty long arms. Just reach right in and grab it, pulled it out. Let's look at the tail. Check this servo out. pull is already in here. Again, it is not finished. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this tape on it so that those wires don't fall back inside of the fuselage. Rudder has an extra wire that runs up to it, runs through an eyelet, and you just put a set screw in the top and it'll be done. Okay, and then where your wing spars, your wing struts go in, you go ahead and pull those out. The mounting material is already there. Let's flip it over to the other side and just pull this piece off. And we're gonna jump right into putting on the landing gear. Okay, so to do the landing gear, you need a 2.5 millimeter ball driver or Allen wrench. Pull these out. There's just 2 of them here. Test fit our gear. And by the looks of it, there is only one way that it will go. Okay, now we're gonna test fit, they're in there good. Now we're gonna pull the bolts back out, put some Loctite on them so they don't come out on us in flight. So one good torque, make sure that they're tight. And your landing gear is mounted. Okay, for our next step, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be installing the stabilizer, elevator, and these little side force generators that come along with it. And it's a 3-step process to be able to do it. You actually have to take apart your elevator from your stabilizer. And you're going to test fit your stabilizer into your fuselage. And like with all the other OMP airplanes, it should push forward, pretty well sit right where it's supposed to. There's a groove in here, and it fits perfectly right into that groove. Okay. This is open up in here, so there's really nothing to glue to. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut out this piece down here so that we have somewhere to glue to. And in order to do that, we're going to put this back in here. Then we're going to flip the airplane over. There's many different methods. You can just use an X-Acto knife, you can use a razor blade, you can use a Sharpie and draw it out with a Sharpie and come back with a soldering iron. Whatever method is best for you. I'm going to use a really sharp razor blade, just barely score it, then come back in and pull those pieces out. And then I'll show you how to get the elevator into here and the side force generators on. All right, so we got our wood piece cut out here. Our covering material has gone by. What I want to do now is I want to make sure that it adheres to this spot in here. Put a little bit of the, we're going to use Titebond Quick and Thick. I'm going to put a little bit on there. We're going to put a little bit on here. We're going to put it in place and hold it in place. But before we do that, I need to show you how to get your elevator in there, because if you do that first, your elevator will not go on. So with your airplane in the upright position, you're going to take your elevator upside down, and now backwards, and you're going to run it through. Takes a little finesse, but you get it upside down and backwards and through, and now it's on there properly. We're just going to let it drop and hang down like that now. Now we're going to go back. We're going to get our Titebond. We're going to take the Titebond and we're going to just put a little bit in here. Okay, and then we're going to put just a little bit in here. Use my finger. Spread it around. Same thing in here. Spread it around really well. There's really nothing for it to glue to up here in the front. I am going to go ahead and put a little bit more up in here, just the little couple of places that it does touch. I don't know if you can see that from the angle of the camera, but I went ahead and touched every open piece of wood with the glue. Now I'm going to run this back through. Get it exactly where we want it. Hold the airplane while I push it forward. Get it in there as best I can. Looks like it's lined up right. Take a moment to wipe off any excess, any extra glue that might have come through. Got a little bit here. Again, let's make sure it's tight. Make sure all the glue, see I've got a little bit of a run here and there. So let's go ahead and get some of the glue off. Okay, and now we're going to wait about 15 minutes to let it dry before we go on to the next step. Okay, well the glue's been drying. I went ahead and unpackaged a few things. These are your side force generators that go on your stabilizer. And if you notice, it has a little wooden piece in here. That wooden piece goes right here on the end of your stabilizer. And if you don't put these on before you glue the elevator on, you can't get them in. So all you got to do, put a little drop of wood glue on each one, on either side, and mount them in. Okay, now that's your elevator. The elevator just slides in. Already has slots hinges in there, already glued into the stabilizer. All you have to do is now put these back through. Get them lined up. And now you can see why you wouldn't have been able to put this side force generator on if your elevator's already on. Flex the elevator, let's make sure that it works. And now all it takes is a little bit of thin CA, cyanoacrylate. You're just going to put a little drop on each piece of the hinge and let that glue wick back into the wood. We'll flip the airplane over and we'll do the same thing. So again, we're going to use instant. Flex it down. Flex it, let it work in a little bit. And now we're going to flip the airplane over and do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, the next part is to do the exact same thing we did with the elevator, gluing it in, but with the rudder this time. So we can have the rudder. Check it out. Check the rudder, make sure that the stripes line up. Shouldn't have much of a gap up here, just enough so that it works. Again, we're going to turn the airplane on its side. We're going to do the wicking with the super glue both directions again. Okay, we're going to work it just real quick. And then flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so we're ready to move on to the next step. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mount the Sunny Sky motor on the front of the airplane. There is two different mounting holes sets up here. One are much smaller, they're for a different motor. This is the one that comes with it, so we're going to go ahead and use it. What you want to do is pull out of your package your mounting brackets and your spacers. Your mounting screws look like this, and your spacers look like that. The spacer is going to go behind the motor mount itself. The screw is going to go through into it like that, and then you're going to mount the motor straight into it like that, ensuring that you put Loctite on each one of these as they go into there. Then you're going to hook your wires up, blue to blue, red to red, black to black. Okay, as you could see from the pictures before, went ahead and used the Velcro that was provided to help mount the wires back into there. The Sunny Sky motor is on. Used, again, blue Loctite on all 4 nuts. Has blind nuts in here. Ran the bolts through, put them in there with Loctite. Now, to bind a receiver to it, so that way I can make sure before I mount the cowl on here that this motor is running the right way. So I'm going to take a few minutes, set up a receiver, get everything ready to go. The tail should be fully dry by then. Maybe we can set up the pull after that. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've set up my receiver. I've just currently got it just set up with an external battery. I've set it up so that I have 4 control surfaces. So I want all of them working independently. 2 ailerons, 2 flaps. That's all set up in your transmitter setup for whatever brand you use. Make sure that your wing is set up for 2 ailerons, 2 flaps. The reason for that is we are going to fly this so that it has full span ailerons and so that I can put it into crow. And I'll make a completely separate video on crow on how to set it up on the Bushmaster. But with 4 leads coming out, you got to be able to make sure that you get them all plugged in the right way or it won't work. So I just took a little zip ties, blue to blue, orange to orange, green to green, and pink to pink to make sure that they're working. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that all of the parts of the airplane are working. So I'm working with the left side wing, and I'm going to go into my servo setup. That way I can look and make sure everything's done. And I can feel my flap is up just a little bit. My aileron might be up just a little bit because of the way the flap is. So I'm going to go in. First, I'm going to make sure that it's working the right way. So if I go with the left stick, the left aileron goes up, causing the left wing to go down, causing the airplane to turn left and right. Okay, so it is working in the correct direction. Now let's check the flaps. So I want the flaps to go down. This is in my 0 position. That is in my 1 position. That is in my 2 position. They are working correctly. So I want to go in and check my servo setup. I'm going to go over to sub trim, and I'm going to go down to left flap, and then I'm going to click on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feel it's off a little bit, and I'm going to roll it till I feel like it's exactly where it needs to be, and I feel like it's pretty solid right there. So then we check the aileron. The aileron is okay. Again, make sure everything working. Back to center. Feels like it's in the right place. So let's do that with the right wing now. I'm going to go ahead and unplug the left wing and get it out of the way so that we don't do any damage to it while we're working on it. OMP provided these extensions that have safeties built into them. Okay, so that wing is done. I'm going to go ahead and put it out of the way. I'm going to bring the right wing over. Take a look at the right wing. So again, green to green, we want to make sure that the negatives are lined up. Okay, the flap has told me it's working. And now again, make sure the negatives are lined up the right way. The aileron has told me that it is now working. And now feeling it again, the flap is off. The aileron is really off, both at the core and at the root. So let's take a look. Again, the right wing is over here. If we give it right, it's needing to be reversed. So we're going to go into servo setup. I'm going to go into reverse it. Right wing goes up, so it's working proper. Let's check the flap. Flaps are working fine on this side. Now let's try to get them all sub-trimmed where they need to be. The flap is up just a little bit, so we're going to go back into sub-trim. We're going to go to right flap, and we're going to put it till it's exactly where I want it to be, exactly centered there. But now the right aileron is really off. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to sub-trim the right aileron until it's lined up. And right there, it seems like it's lined up. Feels like it's lined up with both the core and the root. And we're working and working. Pretty simple setup on that. That's for 2 ailerons. That's your outboard ailerons only and inboard flaps only. Again, in a separate video, I'll show you how to make full span ailerons and full span flaps along with crow, where crow is where the aileron goes up and the flap goes down on both wings, so that you get up aileron here, down aileron there, and it gives you a different landing characteristic. Can slow your airplane down to almost nothing. It's a great feature to have and fun to fly with. A lot of our airplanes, once we've done it with it, that might be the only way that we ever land. A lot of times I'll go straight up, do a stall turn, and I'm pointed straight down at the runway, kill the throttle, throw it into crow, and land it at my feet, just because of how slow it can get the airplane. But again, that'll be a separate video on how to do crow on the 65-inch Bushmaster. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hook up our elevator push rod right here to the back. It's already got all the parts back here. We just need to take the aircraft lock nut off. This is faster if you have a ball driver. I just couldn't seem to find the ball driver in the right size when I needed it. Now there is a washer here. Don't want to lose that washer. So we're just going to run this straight through, put the washer back on, and then we're going to, again, put the aircraft lock washer back on there, lock nut. Okay, so now that it's on there, we want to flip the airplane over, and we're going to check the direction of the elevator, make sure that it's working properly, and make sure that the elevator is centered. Okay, now that we've got the airplane turned back on, you can see the tail of the airplane. Now let's make sure that we're working in the right direction. You pull back on the stick, gives you up elevator. Push down on forward on the stick, gives you down elevator. Okay, and let's see if it's centered. It's going to be hard to give you an exact look at it because of the side force generator on it. But it looks like it needs some up trim in it already. So I'm just going to go into the sub trims. Sorry, it's going to need some down trim in it already. I'm going to go over to my elevator. And that should be level there. Okay. And we will be setting up triple dual rates on everything. Elevator, rudder, and ailerons will have triple dual rates on it so that anybody can fly it, whether they're going to try to do 3D with it or they're going to try to just fly it like a trainer. Triple rates will be on it. Okay, we're back now. We're going to do the rudder installation. Before we get too far along in here, we want to make sure we go ahead and hook up our tail wheel. So we're going to go ahead and flip the fuselage over. See it right here on its side. There's a little wire that comes out. It's the push rod that comes out. So we're going to want to run this push rod through this little point right here. The first thing we need to do is find the set screw, and I think that's a 1.5 or a 1.75. So we're going to dig through Dad's tools and see if I can find a 1.5 or 1.75, and it goes straight down into there. Okay, so we found a 1.5. I'm going to go ahead and roll the airplane on its side again. What I do here is just going to drop right down in here, loosen up the set screw. Don't want to take the set screw out because you don't want to drop it. Then we're going to put it through. And then we're just going to lightly screw it together right now until we get the rudder hooked up so that the rudder's straight. And then we'll come back in and we will tighten this one down and straighten it out. But for right now, it's on there and good to go. So the next part to do is to work on this pull-pull system. And I don't like pull-pull systems just because I don't like putting them together, but they're very, very good to use. Unfortunately, in this kit, and I've noticed in a couple other people's comments, OMP forgot to provide the little brass or aluminum tube that you pull the wire back through and then crimp it down together. So I've had to dig through, and I found some little aluminum tubes here in Dad's workshop, and we're going to pull them through and we're going to get them where we think they go. We're going to crimp them down if possible, run them back through a second time, and then double check everything. But in order to do that, the servo has to be on and it has to be centered. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of that, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and we have the radio turned on. You can see the elevator is working. And so what we want to do now is we want to carefully take this loose. Last thing we want is for this wire to fall back down inside of that fuselage, because then we got to fish it through. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the wire. I'm going to put one of my little eyelets on it that I found. Just aluminum tubing. Then I'm going to run it up from the bottom. Mine's actually not straight, so I'm just going to straighten it up just a little bit so that it's vertical. I'm going to try to do that on both sides, so it's vertical on both sides. And then I'm going to run this back down through the same piece of wire through the tube. I know it's probably hard to see with my fingers, but I'll get a snapshot of it when I'm done, and that way you can see it. And pull it up into there. And then we should have fairly good on there. Now what I'm going to do is, before I crimp it, I'm going to take it and I'm going to run it back through one more time. Now this can be a little bit hard to do, but it's just that extra safety measure. Plus it gives the tube a little more space inside when it crimps, to crimp to more than just one little area. So I've got it on there as tight as I can make it go. And then we do have a little bit of space here on the turnbuckle itself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a pair of pliers and I'm going to crimp it. So it is completely flat. And then I'll come back after I'm happy and I'll cut that little piece off. Now I've already started the other side. Got it almost the same. Just remove my tape. Again, set it up so that I can run this back through a second time. Okay, and once it's tight, come back in and crimp it really well. Now I've heard of some people that'll actually go in and put a drop of solder on there. I'm gonna see how it does first, see how well I like it, and we'll go from there. But let's check the rudder, see how it works. So left rudder, right rudder, left rudder, no blowback, right rudder, no blowback. Now I need to address this tail wheel because it's really off. So back in with the set screw. Loosen it up ever so slightly. Get that tail wheel straight as can be. Okay, got the tail wheel where I like it. And we're gonna go ahead and just tighten it up. Now I'm just going to go in there real quick at the bottom and hit it with the shorter part of the Allen wrench and really torque it on there to make sure that it doesn't want to come loose. All right. Okay, so for the next part, we're going to use the cowling and then the 4 little bitty tiny screws here that hold it on. There's 4 places already drilled. I'm just going to take this piece out. Again, it has the air scoop that comes in, goes right across the bottom of the Sunny Sky speed control, keeping it cool. Nice big area up here for your spinner. These don't just look like Turbo Raven or Turbo Beaver exhausts, but they actually are functioning to help take some of the heat out of here instantly, take it out of the side of the airplane. The rest of the heat will go back through the airplane and out through the cooling vent down at the bottom. But let's go ahead and try to mount this here. Let's take a look. Okay, it fits right up in there and it looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and rotate it on its side. Carefully working only 1 screw at a time. Again, it looks like it's a 1.5 millimeter. It is a 1.5 millimeter. I'm just gonna lightly get it started, and then I'm gonna get the next screw. Again, just lightly get it started. Gonna rotate it over. And get the 4th one started. Okay, now that I've got it all started, I'm gonna go ahead and start tightening them down. Okay, so that side has been mounted on. Gonna come back over and just tighten up this side. Okay, now the crucial part next is we're gonna set up the spinner. And we wanna make sure that when we set the spinner up that we have our motor already in kill. Because the motor is set up, already in there. We wanna make sure that it's in the kill position, which on my transmitter I've already checked it's in the kill position. Go ahead and get this ready. Now we can do this a couple of different ways. We can either just use this nut that's on here right now, or we can use the nut that came with it, the little spinner that came with it, or you can use both depending on how you feel like you need it. The ELO prop that comes with it, it's a 147E, and it does have a ring spacer on the inside, but so does the spinner itself. It comes with some spacers as well, so which is telling me that this prop is going to be too big for this shaft, but we got a couple of choices to make it fit. So first thing, let's go ahead and get the spinner open. The screws are already mounted inside. They look like a 2 millimeter, so I'm going to take a second to take those out. Okay, and it makes a really smooth fit. But it's too big. So I need to go in and figure out which one of these is the right one. I find that it's easier to go ahead and push this up on here and then push the spinner back plate up onto it there. Okay, let's get the prop ready. A couple of decals that come with the prop if you want to run decals supporting ELO props. They're good propellers. Got one running on an Edge 540, and I've run one in the past on a different airplane that I built from scratch. This one has a metal spacer that's going to go inside of the propeller. Fits beautifully up on there. I'm going to go ahead and put the prop on it. And if you notice, I'm putting the prop vertical right now. It's because I have the two set screws on the side, so the vertical will go in there, and then it'll fit just like that. Okay. Look like I'm happy with that part, so let me just go in, make sure that all my screws are lined up where they want to be. And we'll put the washer on. I'm going to go ahead and double nut it. Put the jam nut on it. Okay. And that's on there tight. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the one that came with it as well. Then put my spinner back on. Try not to drop your screws. Just get it barely started. Same thing on this side. Tighten it down. Fight with the screwdriver a little bit, the ball driver, and take it back out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go behind the airplane and I'm going to give it a test run. So it's completely off right now. I'm going to go ahead and put my hand on the airplane, and I've got the kill switch and I'm throwing it into the on position. Nothing has happened. That's a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and run the throttle up. And it feels good. Okay, and again, that's only with a 4S. That's what we're going to plan on flying this airplane with, is a 4S. It's a 3200, I think, 4S 3200. Again, kill switch is now off. Hold the airplane and I can double check. Nothing going on. Next step is for me to go ahead and mount the receiver. Get some tie downs in here for the battery. We'll put the wing on it and you can see what it looks like with the wing on and the wing struts on it, and then we'll do the decals. Okay, so let's get the wing mounted. You can see that I've already put the carbon fiber wing tube in, and I went ahead and took one of the wing struts and lightly screwed it in on the bottom side. I'll show you on the other side how to do all of that, but it's super easy. It's a 2mm bolt. Take it out. The flattest part of it, this part that's flat, goes against the fuselage. The part that's a little more leveled out, a little bit bent, maybe that's on like a 45-degree angle, that's the part that goes on the wing. Wing mount's fairly easy. It's got a thumb screw right here, so just take that thumb screw out, slide the wing tube right on, and as if you remember from earlier when I was setting up the whole wing, I color coded. So I got blue to blue, orange to orange on this side. Okay, blue to blue, orange to orange. Slide everything back into the wing. Have your counter rotation pin here. First time a wing goes on, it's usually pretty tight. And where did I put the bolt? Here's the wing bolt. The wing bolt's a little bit tighter to get into. It's right here next to the spar that goes through. So it is a little bit tighter to get to, but not too horribly bad. And it's a thumb screw. You easily could replace this with a larger, with a same size diameter, but with one that has a ball driver in it, so that you can just run a ball driver across and in. If you have one in your shop, something like that. I find that these thumb screws are pretty easy because you can get to the field and go ahead and screw it together. I had a Bushmaster from a different company, and I never flew it with the struts on it. The struts were really hard to put on, but these struts seem like they're pretty easy and they're pretty solid. So I'll go ahead and rotate the airplane up on its side real quick. Let you see what's going on. The bolt is right here in the bottom of the wing. Just slide that on up. And back in it goes. And just use your 2mm and tighten it up. Same thing down here. Tighten it up on there nice and solid. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up the other side of the wing, and I'll be right back. Okay, and just like that, the wing is on. Airplane is super lightweight. I'm gonna say about 4.5 pounds right there. Put the top piece back on. And there you have it. OMP Bushmaster complete. Now I'm just going to do a complete radio setup on it and get it ready to fly. Hope you enjoyed the build, and see you at the flight line. I'll make it quick so that you can see it all. So, outboard ailerons, elevator flat mix, elevator by itself, rudder, full span, crow, full span, everything works. Hope you enjoy it.